Hello everyone. This is my Odd Eyes deck that I piloted at the Bosnian Regionals last weekend, and I managed to place top fourth at the. There were 64 players in total, so I decided I might as well share my deck profile with you all. So let's get started. First off, of course, we have the triple Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon, the bread and butter of the deck. Without it, the deck wouldn't work, as we all know. Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon, the regular one. Well, simply because he's Odd Eyes and you need those destruction triggers. So even if you miss some triggers, you can always pop it during the end phase and trigger the Odd Eyes Arc Pendulum to special summon something. Then I ran a single Odd Eyes Persona Dragon. I used to run 3, but I decided to make the most optimal version of this build, so I wanted to reduce the number of cards to 40, so I had to make some cuts. And I tested one Persona as well as one Phantom Dragon. I used to run both at 3, but yesterday, yeah, didn't need any more copies of these two. At 1, they showed perfectly good. Like, I'm really satisfied with this ratio. Oda's Wizard Dragon is another card that I actually tested at 3. In a trap heavy meta with lots of summon strikes, it would be great because if you pendulum summon this guy and you get summon striked, you'll get the effect of Odd Eyes Wizard Dragon to special summon an Odd Eyes monster and to search a Spiral Flame Strike, which is really important to make the deck a bit more resilient against trap heavy decks. But I ultimately decided to run it at 1 in order to optimize the deck. Now, two Performer Pal Odd Eyes Dissolvers, the Fusion Summoners, and the most common target for Odd Eyes Arc Pendulum Dragon to special summon in order to go into Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon. Of course, another Rhoda of the deck, Odd Eyes Revolution Dragon. The funny thing is that you can actually pendulum summon it by using Gate Infinity, which has also run it this deck. But that hasn't happened at all during the whole event. Anyway, it's just used as Rhoda and as an occasional Master Reborn for the Vortex Dragon. Now, of course, it can also search Darkworm, which is actually number 2 most important card aside Odd Eyes Arc Pendulum Dragon, because they are really in sync and they complement each other really well. But why? Because you see, Supreme King Gate 0 is the new staple for an Odd Eyes deck, if you ask me, because you can use the effect not only to destroy your own scales, but to also special summon a branded monster, Albion, the branded dragon, and then after you link it away, you simply get to search a branded fusion or a trap card that I'll show you later. Aside the 3 gate zeros, I also run 2 gate infinities because there is a low count of low skills here. Even the high skill that we have aside infinity, number 12, is generally not used as a pendulum skill. You always want to have the arc pendulum as the high skill. So sometimes you won't have it, and that's where I use Darkworm's effect, the scale effect, to put Gate Infinity into the other skill and to pendulum summon. So then we have Morphage Sloth, which is one of the targets for this Hieratic Spheres, the Link monster, and usually it's accompanied with the Odd Eyes Absolute Dragon from the extra deck, which can negate attacks and protect it from battle. Now, here where it gets spicy. Dino Wrestler, Pancratops, and Radiant, the multi-dimensional kaiju. I also tried running Radiant in 3, but I quickly realized that you can't have 2 Radiants on the field, so if you go first, that's not a good idea to run, because if you draw into 2, it's just bad, and you have like waiting Radiant there in your hand, and if you don't have any other combos, you're practically bricked. But these two performed amazingly well on the event. And I also mentioned that I run a Albion. Well, it means I also run a mini branded engine. So I run 2 Fallen of Albaz. I tested 1 copy. It proved good. But sometimes I just get to add a branded fusion and not being able to activate it. So instead, I decided to run two, which was a good decision, I can say, because I didn't need in a few occasions to use branded fusion and dump a second Albaz from my deck in order to win the game. And yeah, the branded fusion, you all know how that works. And also, I wanted to spotlight this trap here, Screens of the Branded. I usually go into a play where I summon Albion via Gate 0, then link it away into Spheres, and during the end phase, I don't have to add Branded Fusion to my hand. Instead, I set this card, which works this way. During the turn, a fusion monster landed in your graveyard. You can activate this card and special summon one fusion from your graveyard or you're banished, which means you can basically recover your Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon after being kaiju'd or lava golemed or something. So you can still have the negate and it can still float thanks to the Odd Eyes Archpendulum Dragon. Now, moving these aside, a bit more about the spells. So also the basic Rhodas plus pop. This is such an amazing card. Like, you want consistency, you search a card. You want to pop back row, I pop back row, and save the day against a Eldritch matchup in the top 8 by destroying the skill drain. I also run 3 Summoner's Art because, as I said, you really want that Archpendulum in your high scale. So I just went with a maximum number of cards that actually gets to it. I also ran 3 Allure of Darkness in order to draw into the important stuff, as well as to help with getting to the side deck cards faster. Then we have a Dragon's Shrine, because I already explained how important it is to get to Gate 0, so dumping Dark Worm would be the right choice here. The last spell, number 40, would be Called by the Grave in order to dodge the hand traps. Now, you might have noticed something weird here. Where is Sky Iris? Yes, I decided to cut Sky Iris completely. At the end, I was like, maybe I could run one, but no. It's just a card that relies on having to resolve, and it relies on other cards simply. If it gets ashed or ogred, it's just, it stands there and doesn't help the combo at all. And I just usually drew into like multiple copies, like having 2 Skyris doesn't help you one bit. Having Skyris and Terraforming doesn't help you one bit. You just simply brick there. And if you get ashed at that point, you're practically, your turn is over. You can't do anything there. So yeah, those would be the spells. Now the extra deck, which I actually didn't quite prepare here. But anyway, let's go one by one. 2 Odd Eyes Vortex Dragons, self-explanatory. 2 Odd Eyes Absolute Dragons. And 1 Odd Eyes Meteor Burst Dragon for the Odd Eyes lineup. I actually decided to also cut Odd Eyes Fusion, as you can probably notice, because my extra deck was actually kind of short on space because of adding the Branded Fusion engine. And I simply realized that it's a bad card to draw in your first hand. But Branded Fusion is also a bad card to draw in your first hand because you can't link summon. But it's proved much more useful than the Odd Eyes Fusion itself, so I decided to just completely cut the Pendulum Odd Eyes monsters from the extra deck. Speaking of branded, here are the Albion the Branded Dragons. I run 2 because the play is basically go into Albion, into Lubellion, into Mirror Jade. Albion will be recycled with Lubellion, and Lubellion will summon Mirror Jade. Then during the end phase, because you sent Albion via Mirror Jade to the graveyard, you'll add a Branded Fusion and OTK the next turn. And, well, that's basically the main idea of the engine, and it works really well if you ask me. 2 Hieratic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres. I actually tried running 1, but it's impossible to run this deck with less than 2 Hieratic Seals, simply due to the fact that I just don't have any other viable Link 2s, which enable me to Pendulum Summon more, to control the board more, or anything else, basically. The only other Link I ran is Apollosa, because sometimes you just have an excess of monsters. There are certain combos that go into Apollosa. instead of Hieratic Seal, but then again, the thing is you can use Hieratic Seal to summon Elbaz during your opponent's turn, then fusion into Albion Lobelion or Mirror Jade. The Mirror Jade would be the easiest target there because everybody runs extra deck monsters. But also, you can actually use Heavenly Spheres to bounce your own card back, so you can pay the cost for both Elbaz and Lubellion when needed. The other cards are Starring Enemy Dragon, basically because the Branded Engine locks you into fusions. You can use Gate Infinity's effect to summon this guy because it's also a Pendulum monster, even though it's a fusion. So it also can. It has a decent effect. It can be summoned via Albion as well by banishing one Dark monster and one Pendulum monster. It can negate, it can burn, it can steal the effect of opponent's monsters. Even though I haven't summoned it for its own effect, like a fusion summoned it, it came in handy in some occasions. Then we have also Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, simply to beat over the beaters. And yeah, if it gets destroyed, it nukes the field. And Perform Pal Gatling Ghoul, the burn card, which essentially has enough power in this Gatling gun to reduce the life points by over the half. And it did actually happen once in like the 40th minute of a game where I just went wild and like dealt 4,800 damage with it. It's just crazy. The card is so good. Now, for the side deck, again, I haven't prepared it, but let's go one by one. First off, Trap Eaters. I like this card because you know how Pendulum decks are vulnerable against a anti-spell fragrance, especially if they put a negation on board. So what can you do if you can't Typhoon it, you can't Twin Twister it, you can't anything? You can just eat the card away and then continue your plays. That's the idea at least, but haven't really had the necessity to use it much, and I just didn't get to the occasion to use it. But I definitely would keep it in side deck. Also against back row decks, 3 Denko Sekka, self-explanatory, just to steal the back row because you don't use your normal summon as much. Other back row hate cards are of course Red Reboot and Harpy's Feather Duster. Duster won me a game against Eldritch definitely, and Red Reboot wasn't seen enough to be relevant, but it has to be there in the deck. I did play it against the Eldritch matchup. Then I ran 2 Dark Ruler No More simply because I felt confident in breaking the board, which proved to be true because I managed to break through boards multiple times. I was sight locked. I got like a board full of negation from Dragon Link monsters, but I managed to break through them without using Dark Ruler no more. So yeah, I didn't have the need for running 3 copies. Now for some side deck cards for going first, Imperial Iron Ball is also a card that works against Eldritch, but again it also works against Flu Wanderies because they can banish their birds. And yeah, also against Flu Wanderies, their Only 1 should be really useful, but it does kind of hurt this deck itself, but it's better to slow down yourself and completely shut down your opponent than letting your opponent go wild and just kill you straight off the bat. And also, Unending Nightmare is a very interesting card that you not only can use on your opponent's floodgates, but also pop your own Pendulum Scales and trigger the Odd as Arc Pendulum Dragon's effect to special summon a odd monster. And that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching and have a nice day. Bye bye.